Okay, good morning, everybody. Hope everybody is well. Happy Wednesday for those that are here live. Happy whatever day of week it is for you. Thanks so much for joining us on the Boost. We've been talking about this idea of unconscious bias, taking responsibility for empowerment, taking responsibility for how we feel about people. I want to switch a little bit gears today, and get into. We're talking about depth. We're talking about trying to deepen our understanding of things. And a lot of times in life, as you start to delve into this world of asking questions about the things that you take for granted, you get fascinating answers. You take for granted that this is the way it is, but when you ask on it, you realize that it's not the case, right? When you take for granted that this person's insensitive, and then you start to question yourself and say, well, are they really insensitive? Maybe I am a little bit more sensitive. I was talking to someone yesterday about this, and they were explaining to me some fight they had with somebody. And I'm listening to them give me their take of it, and I'm thinking to myself, do you know how sensitive you are on the subject? I didn't want to say anything because I didn't want to, flare anything up. But as he was explaining to me his side of this dispute that took place in the business sphere, and because I know him for as many years as I do, it became so clear to me that, yeah, the person across the table that did the thing that bothered him, maybe he wasn't perfect, but it wasn't as bad as he was saying it. And I think what was going on is that he has his own stuff that was flaring up. And he was assuming the person across was saying the thing that I don't think the guy was really saying. And I was trying to explain to him, in the business world, this stuff sort of happens. Not everybody, comes to a negotiation table and, asks themselves, how do I help the other guy out? They're not bad people. Listen, ideally you want to deal with somebody who's thinking about, enlarging the pie. But if a guy's just trying to cut off an extra slice for himself, he's not going after you personally. But this idea that we're not fully even aware of what triggers us. Now, it doesn't mean you're going to go sit on someone's couch and go through some Freudian intervention. That's what happens sometimes. We live in the world where it's either I don't got to think about it, or it's too hard and I have to go see somebody and do it for the next 10 years, and that's crazy. It's not true. There's shades of gray in between out to lunch and deep intervention in therapy to get a greater handle on the triggers that get me going, so that I could make a couple of connections. It doesn't mean you have to have hypnosis therapy where they bring you back to previous lives and you realize that the reason why you get so upset is because you were during the times of ancient Egypt and you were being beaten by a taskmaster and now you're coming back. You don't got to go there. You don't got to share what happened. I'm not saying you shouldn't, and there are people that went through some serious trauma, and take whatever you need and go wherever you got to go. And that's super important. I'm not knocking it. I'm just saying that you don't got to go through it in order for someone to say, wait a second, let me think about on the car ride home why I'm so upset. Maybe I'm self-conscious about this thing. Maybe I had this or didn't have this growing up and I always wanted it or always value myself based on it. Maybe the reason why I'm getting so angry or I'm so mad at this person or I'm so offended by this person is because I am self-conscious about things. This happens a lot with different parties, different religious denominations. People are so upset at each other. For what? Maybe it's because there's self-consciousness in their own worship. Maybe there's some self-consciousness in terms of political affiliation. There's stuff that goes on in a man and a woman's mind that has nothing to do with the person across from them. I remember this happened to me years ago. I was doing some event, and in my head, I had gotten that like a group of people were more like mooches. And in the back, I'll never forget this. I was 22. In the back of the room were like a bunch of guys that came to like eat the extra food. It wasn't a big deal. But in my head, like it was just triggering, and I was tired, and I did this event, whatever. And like I snapped at them. And they're looking at me like, what? I'm just grabbing the pizza, man. This empty boxes of pizza, like half empty, eating box. Like, what's up? And I remember thinking to myself, like, what just happened? Like, what just happened in my head? I allowed this thing to fester, and I was busy and tired, and no one came to help, and I had talked myself into some whatever that I was the only guy working on this thing, and everyone else was mooching, whatever it was. I had built up this thing in my head that caused me to hear somebody else's words in a much more derogatory way in which it was given. And that's a really big deal. And that happens all the time. I mean, all the time. You could look at families. I bet you can go from marriage to marriage, and you can see couples that are fighting because each of them have their own self-conscious triggers that the other person either knows or doesn't even really fully know. It happens in companies all the time. All the time. People that are sensitive to something that's cultural or racial or gender-based or religion-based. They're sensitive. I remember one time a guy came to me, and I had in my, I mean, this is like, this is a ridiculous comment, but like, he said to me, I kid you not, this like happened. He was like this executive in the company, and he saw in my office I had 2 screens for my computers. Like, I don't know if you've seen like, a double screen. He's like, oh, you have 2 screens because I heard that Orthodox Jews don't like television. So I'm shocked that you have screens. And I'm thinking, what? What are you talking? These are monitors. Like, what are you talking about? And like, I remember like being like, what is going on? And like, you can see that he's got something in his blood. I don't know what it is. And I was like trying so hard to like not get myself fired. But like, there was something happening about Orthodox Jews with this dude. Like something. Like, he was, as he was talking to me, and I'm thinking, this, don't engage in this. Just don't engage. There's something happening. This mildly anti-Semitic, anti-Orthodox rhetoric. Like, don't go down this road, because there's something there I don't know about. And whatever I say, whatever's coming out of my mouth is going to be taken in the wrong way. Like, and I remember, like, thank God, like, I moved on, because I was like 3, 2, like about to like go nuts. But I wouldn't have gone nuts. But you know what I mean? I mean, like, when I mean nuts, I mean like a passive aggressive, sarcastic comment about a monitor. People got stuff. And you got to check your stuff all the time. You got to assume when you're done with any interaction with somebody that's not positive, and you got to go back and check your stuff first before you get in the car steaming over what the other person did. Check your stuff. Like, check your stuff. Maybe you were 10 degrees more sensitive than you should have been, and they were only 80% wrong. That's a big difference. That's a big difference. And you could put 10 in the middle for who knows. That's a big difference. From someone being 1,000,000% wrong and insensitive to being 75% wrong, and you take a little bit of that responsibility for being a little bit sensitive. Maybe. Happens all the time. We got to be sensitive to people, and we got to take responsibility for the unconscious bias that is within ourselves. But we also got to be protecting ourselves to understand that sometimes we take things, we take them through the eyes of someone who is a little more sensitive than it was meant. Well, let's talk about this a little bit tomorrow. I want to sort of spend a few more minutes on this. All right, everybody, have a great day. Be happy. With God's help, can't wait to see you tomorrow.
Living on a lifeline, the world doesn't ever seem to change. Looking for the sunshine, but you're caught up in the rain. It's like your eyes are wide open, but you cannot see. You're watching life pass you by like 1, 2, 3. Walking in destruction, the winds of life blur your vision. All the devastation, forever feels like you're on the run. It's time, no one else can set you free. You're locked inside, and only you have got the key.